realize there are a number of factors that play a role in the historic inflation that we're experiencing. Supply chain disruptions.
Putin's price hike is hitting America hard.
Regulations that constrain supply.
And let's remember how we got here. Putin invaded Ukraine.
Rising inflation expectations and excessive fiscal spending.
Vladimir Putin and gas prices, not a joke.
But the problem hasn't sprung out of nowhere.
70% of the increase in prices in March came from Putin's price hike in gasoline.
And in January of 2021, inflation was at 1.4%.
Putin's invasion of Ukraine has driven up gas prices and food prices all over the world.
By December of 2021, it had risen to 7%, a five-fold increase.
We've seen the price of gas go up over $1 just since he put his troops on the border of Ukraine.
Now, since the war in Ukraine began in late February, the rate of inflation has risen incrementally, another 1.6%, to a current level of 8.6%.
Since Putin began his military buildup on Ukrainian borders, just since then, the price of the gas at the pump in America went up 75 cents.
So again, from 7% to 8.6%. Given how inflation has escalated over the past 18 months.
Just look at the facts. Since the start of the war in Ukraine this year, gas prices have risen by almost $2 a gallon in the United States.
Would you say that the war in Ukraine is the primary driver of inflation in America?
No, inflation was high before, certainly before the war in Ukraine broke out.
A full conversion of Anthony Albanese to Aussie Joe Biden. He now says that all of this inflation, all of these extra costs are Vladimir Putin's fault. One of the worst bits of political spin that has come particularly out of the United States is Putin's price hike. You've heard this a million times from that idiot Joe Biden. Remember, this bloke is such a moron, he falls up the stairs.
Putin's price hike, Putin's invasion of Ukraine has driven up gas prices and food prices all over the world. Putin's invasion of Ukraine has driven up gas prices and food prices all over the world. 70% of the increase in prices in March came from Putin's price hike in gasoline. I'm doing everything within my power by executive orders to bring down the price and address the Putin price hike. To help deal with this Putin price hike, nations coming together to help deny Putin the ability to weaponize his energy resources against American families.
That from President Biden in a speech today to union supporters. He reassured them inflation remains a top priority for the administration.
I'm doing everything in my power to blunt Putin's gas price hike. Just since he invaded Ukraine, it's gone up $1.74 a gallon because of nothing else but that.
So because of the actions we've taken to address the Putin price hike, we are in a better place than we were last month. But we expect March CPI headline inflation to be extraordinarily elevated due to Putin's price hike. And we expect a large difference between core and headline inflation, reflecting the global disruptions in energy and food markets. So core inflation doesn't include energy and food prices. Headline inflation does. And of course, we know that core inflation, energy, the impact of energy, of course, on oil prices, gas prices, we expect that to continue to reflect what we've seen the increases be over the course of this invasion.
Today's inflation report confirmed what Americans already know. Putin's price hike is hitting America hard. It's not without cost here at home. Putin's war is already hurting American families at the gas pump. Since Putin began his military buildup on Ukrainian borders, just since then, the price of the gas at the pump in America went up 75 cents. So we're releasing 60 million barrels of oil from our joint oil reserves.
Regarding fuel supply, President Biden has issued a ban on Russian oil imports into the U.S., and that could drive gas prices even higher.
The U.S. is now banning Russian oil imports into the country.
That means Russian oil will no longer be acceptable at U.S. ports, and the American people will deal another powerful blow to Putin's war machine.
The administration had been reluctant to take this step out of concern over soaring gas prices, but the White House has been under increasing political and public pressure to enact the ban. Millions trying to escape, as well as those remaining in Ukrainian cities.
Russian forces are at the very least operating with reckless disregard for the safety of non-combatants, as Russian units launch artillery and airstrikes into urban areas as they have done.
This is placing the blame for the pain at the pump squarely on the shoulders of Vladimir Putin, calling it the Putin price hike.
Now, U.S. President Joe Biden has blamed Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin for increasing fuel prices in wake of Russia's military offensive in Ukraine. In lieu of rising prices, Biden announced The release of 1 million barrels of oil per day from the national's Strategic Petroleum Reserve for 6 months in a bid to control gas prices that have spiked after the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war that has entered its 38th day today. So Biden there blaming Putin for the rise in fuel prices, and US also increasing the release of the oils. It has released 1 million barrels of oil per day for the nation's.
Record high inflation has robbed the American people of more than $10,000 for each and every family since Joe Biden's become president. You just look at what people were paying for things before he came to office and what they're paying today. As a result, people are able to save less. They're having to pay more. We know that about 2 out of 3 American households are living paycheck to paycheck. Personal savings in this country is now at a record low. Household debt at a record high. And people are having to borrow more money, put things on the credit card at higher and higher interest rates. At the same time, energy prices are dramatically higher than they were the day Joe Biden took office. Cost of heating oil is up by 2/3. Natural gas is higher now than for a long time. Electricity is up by 20 cents on the dollar. As a result, there's actually the risk of people having their energy and their electricity shut off this winter. Some are doing it voluntarily because they don't want the big bill that's going to come. Hard to believe that it is happening here in the wealthiest country in the world. We have enough energy to keep every American warm this winter. Some of it they won't let us get out of the ground, but we have it. So it's an absolute disgrace with the energy resources we have in this country that Americans are facing brownouts and blackouts from an energy standpoint because of the Biden administration's radical climate policies. Yet millions and millions of Americans are living with financial fear and with massive frustration at this administration and ignoring the needs of the people. So what are the Democrats doing about it? Nothing. Joe Biden actually sold some of our emergency petroleum reserve, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, sold some of it to China. You wouldn't believe that, but yet it happened. Our petroleum reserve is for America. It's for emergencies. It's for natural disasters. It's for war. It's not some blackouts from an energy standpoint because of the Biden administration's radical climate policies. Bill that's going to come. Energy prices are dramatically higher than they were the day Joe Biden took office. Cost of heating oil is up by 2/3. Natural gas is higher now than for a long time. Electricity is up by 20 cents on the dollar. As a result, there's actually the risk of people having their energy and their electricity shut off this winter. Some are doing it voluntarily because they don't want the big bill that's going to come. Hard to believe that it is happening here in the wealthiest country in the world. We have enough energy to keep every American warm this winter. Some of it they won't let us get out of the ground, but we have it. So it's an absolute disgrace with the energy resources we have in this country that Americans are facing brownouts and blackouts from an energy standpoint because of the Biden administration's radical climate policies. Yet millions and millions of Americans are living with financial fear and with massive frustration at this administration and ignoring the needs of the people. So what are the Democrats doing about it? Nothing. Joe Biden actually sold some of our emergency petroleum reserve, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, sold some of it to China. You wouldn't believe that, but yet it happened. Our petroleum reserve is for America. It's for emergencies. It's for natural disasters. It's for war. It's not for China. This week I'm introducing legislation to make sure this never happens again. The House has already passed this legislation. The vote was completely bipartisan. More than 100 Democrats voted for it in the House. No reason it shouldn't be bipartisan here in the Senate as well, Mr. President. So I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to join me in this effort. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is for us. It's not for our enemies. Joe Biden has promised to use our tax dollars. I mean, it's astonishing. He went to the United Nations. He said he was going to send $11 billion a year to give to the United Nations for climate reparations, for energy we've used, giving away American dollars when Americans can't afford to pay for energy costs here at home. Why is he doing it? You listen to his speech? Because he wants to say he's sorry. That's what we have. A president who wants to apologize once again for America. He wants us to feel guilty about the fact that we built the strongest economy in the world using oil, gas, coal, all of the energy sources that we have in this country. The American people have nothing to apologize for. Joe Biden's wrong. Shouldn't apologize for being an energy superpower. We shouldn't apologize for using our energy resources. He wants to apologize. He ought to be apologizing to the people of the United States for the policies he's put in place that have driven up costs and caused pain for families all across America.
When President Biden was in Long Beach recently, he said he described inflation as the Putin tax.
As the what?
The Putin tax.
Yeah.
Is that a fair characterization?
No, 80% of the increase in inflation happened before Putin invaded. Now, yes, it is true that Putin's invasion of Russia, and the reduction in oil supply has increased inflation, but I would say 75 to 80% of this is a result of Biden policies.
And when folks vote, they order what they want, and in this case, they got what they asked for.